Okay, welcome back everybody. I want to focus my efforts this week on finishing, at least getting the quote-unquote benchwork piece of that done. And so the first thing I want to do is cut a piece of foam that would fit in here and then cover this whole thing. I also want to re-anchor. If I come underneath, I've got 2 anchor points there because that's studs. Then the next one isn't until you get all the way to the wall, because we built the house with 2x6s on 24-inch centers. So the studs aren't as close together as you might think they should be. I would have loved to have had another one, but I felt like putting that all the way on the end, I might get some sag in the middle. But now what I've got is this piece over on the end, just moves a little bit. It's not much, but there is a stud in the center of this wall here. So I'm actually gonna put one in there, one of these brackets right there, and then move on towards doing that foam piece and then see where I go from there. So here's a little time lapse of cutting the foam down to fit. First thing I did was snap off the first 18-inch section to get it kind of close to the right size. Then I was over there working on the corner where it needs to kind of fit in that notch near the rail for the garage door. So that's just getting that out of there. That's sort of the first obstacle to get it to sit back where it goes. Kind of checking alignment. I also need to notch out where the backdrop is, because this piece actually sits behind it slightly. So that's what I'm doing here, is just notching out a little bit for the backdrop. Wrestling with this thing. This actually took about 20 minutes. So I've just sped it up here. So I've got it fit in there. Still checking alignment. Making sure it's fits all around. And I'm just drawing a line across the face of it to get the final width close to right. I'll end up putting fascia in there. And if there's a gap between the edge of this and the fascia, I'll just fill it in with putty. Let's see, what are we doing here? I'm just cutting a little bit of stuff off camera. Not too interesting there. So now I've got the notch that fits into that space there at the end of the ladder tracks. Now I'm just running along, and I'm going to cut the last little inch and a half off to get it to have the correct width. So with all the cuts made, just maneuvering it into place and laying it out. Let's see how we did. Not bad, huh? Nothing some putty and sculpt the mold can't fix. All right, now that I've got the piece cut, I'm gonna go ahead and attach it with primer. This just kills. This is pretty much how I did all the other sections as well. It's been a while since I used this stuff. What I'll do is I'll just lay a fairly thick coat down and then bring this down and get it lined up, and then just put a bunch of weight on it, let it dry. And that will effectively glue the foam down to the wood. Getting pretty close here. Lay this down where it's going to go. feel that already starting to stick a little bit. Yeah, it's just a matter of using heavy things, like a paint bucket, for example. As I filmed this, I listed everything I was doing, but really it's just grab a bunch of heavy stuff that you have laying around, throw it on there, and let it dry overnight. All right, since I showed that time lapse, I ended up actually unattaching this entire thing and sliding it that way about a ½ inch. When I eyeballed it, I didn't have it quite lined up down here, but now it is. And I'd rather have a gap to deal with in the back than in the front. On that topic, I am looking at what I had done over here when I cantilevered this, and I'm gonna use the same construction to fill in this little area here. So that's a 1x2 and then some ½ inch plywood, and I don't know if you can see it. If I zoom in a little bit, there's one more small little piece there. That's actually a paint stirrer, you know, whatever you have on hand to get things level, right? So I've actually built 2 more of these little cantilever things, and I'm gonna put one on that seam and one on that one, and that should hold this thing nicely from both sides. What this actually is, the main surface, that is a 1x6. So I went out and bought a small 1x6 board, which is here, and then just using that as a very flat, hard surface, I've glued together 1x2, the ½ inch plywood, paint stirrer. I've spot checked it. This one will sit on the seam to the left, and then this one I've got it off centered because the door will actually sit right in there. And so that'll sit right on the seam, kind of right on there like that, with the plywood sitting up in here. All right, just showing the cantilevers there. Coming off the existing benchwork to support this little notch. And the reason this was cut out, in the old layout, there was another section here that came towards me. So this was just the corner of it fit in against here. I had built it like that first, and then came back later and added the cantilever for a few extra yard tracks. So when I took the whole thing apart, it just had this notch out. So this is just filling it back in. And I just got some drywall mud in there. It's very rough right now. These curves are all gonna be extended straight. I've been removing a little bit of track just to kind of get room to work. I'll probably take that piece out too. Those are glued down, so I'll just pop a spatula under there, loosen those up and start straightening them. That's all gonna be straight. And I just wanna get away from this area here. But I'll probably, you know, sand that down, maybe put a couple of applications on it here on the seam, get it cleaned up, and then I'll be, before I do much else, I will be painting this the same brown. I hate this pink thing. I had a layout in my 20s, probably years ago. And, you know, they call it, you know, they talk about the plywood Pacific or whatever. Mine was like the Mars Pacific, because I had this pink foam and I had track and you know, everything was operational, but I had never started any scenery, and it was like that for the whole time I had the layout. It was just pink. And I thought, as I'm building the layouts now, I'm not gonna look at pink foam anymore. So that'll get painted after this is all cleaned up, but that'll be part of next week's video. I think I'm gonna wrap up here, but I'm pretty happy with the progress this week. Continuing work here on the yard extension. So y'all be safe out there, stay well, and thanks for watching.